good God, 7 people in, 7 thumbs up. Now there, that makes this literally the most popular and highest rated video on YouTube, full stop. You know. And yes, I'm sat outside. Remain outside until my battery can take no more, and then I'll go in. Oh, oh. Fantastic. We're back on form. Can't see any, there's nothing in the chat. Of course, you're not talking, that's standard. People just come here and hope that you can't hear me. Is everyone else having sound? Can no one else hear? Can nobody hear? Okay. If you can't hear, the volume is low. That could just be me. Okay. What if I get really? If I get close like this, is that better? So just do the whole live stream like this. Right here. This is going to be my thing from now on. All my videos. How am I? God, there's a hell of a question. Well, it's been a while. The audio is going to suck, mate. I don't know why the audio sucks. It just does. For some reason, it works when I use a camera. It works when I record a video, when I record a mic, pre-record. But for some reason, when I go live on YouTube, the audio cuts out. I have no idea why. For me, if you want my, slightly, if you want my honest but quite frankly delusional opinion, it's because YouTube are just fucking with me, and it's just another way for YouTube to fuck me over, like they always have done, and they always will. I don't even think it's deliberate on YouTube's part. I just think I am statistically the poor bastard who gets the full end of the shit, I think something will, right? When you think about it, everybody has YouTube issues, even the bigger channels occasionally, and that's unfortunately the only time people seem to care. And I wouldn't mind, but people then act like this is somehow that this is a new thing, or that YouTube's gone. I'm like, no, they've been like this since day one. But I'm okay, John. But what with most of YouTube's sort of systems being automated now, you've got to believe that statistically, not everyone's going to be get equally fucked over. There's going to be some people who, luck of the draw or bad luck of the draw, get fucked over more. I happen to be one of those people, Well, but I've had my shots, mate. Brandon, we'll get on to, I know you want to take over the conversation, But we'll get onto it. I've had my shots. I'm clean. You know, free from infectious disease. Somehow, for for my entire life. How I've managed to pull that off, I don't know. Um, I've had my 2 shots. I don't fucking know. Is there a third one? Fuck, I haven't been paying attention. You know, just calm down, Brandon. It will be fine. Stop worrying about it. No. It's not been 6 months, so no. Just shut up about the boosters. Right? This is one of the few places where people can convene and not worry about infecting people. Not, I don't mean my chat, except I just mean online. The worst thing that's going to happen online is you're going to be turned into a massive racist, and even if that happens, that's where the money is. So look on the bright side of things. No, Brandon, no. I will say this though. I will say this though, Brandon. Please stick with it. There you go, Brandon. That's what you wanted, wasn't it? Yeah. What you wanted. Yeah. I know. Aren't I a weirdo just wanting to get Isn't it weird? Me, because I'm obviously the only person who wants to get inoculated from a disease that I've never had. Yeah. Also, that 99.7 survival rate thing is a bullshit fucking myth that comes from a fucking Instagram post that some cunt made. It's been debunked, right? I love that motherfucker. I haven't uploaded anything for nearly 2 months, and yet the second I upload a live stream, it's kind of adorable that there's someone. He probably made that account back in fucking August, right? Like, when I did my last fucking live stream. It's kind of adorable. And I love, and just for the FYI, Brandon, or whatever your fucking name is, I love that it pisses you off so much just that I have been vaccinated from that no one else. Saying that, I don't know. For all I know, you do this with. You're like a fucking male cat. There's like 25 different people who think that you're trolling just them. Got a feeling you've got a lot of free time on your hands. Well, I mean, I'm not. Yeah, I'd love to have that motherfucker back in here now that he's just been found guilty. I hope he gets like 150-year sentence. Like, you still think? Do you still think this is part of some publicity stunt? I love that it took the jury like literally 4.5 minutes to fucking. It was like a cuckoo clock, fucking going in. They're going in to deliberate, and they were coming out before they were even fucking. They'd all got in the room. They all just sat down, and it's like going to a buffet lunch. They just all sat down and went. Well, I mean, you can't deny he's got a lot of publicity. I mean, a lot. I mean, this is more people in the last few years. R. Kelly has been, being talked about more than probably as much as he, not since he was at his peak in the early '90s with Vibe. Oh, well, we can bash the UK for being as dumb as you like. It's not like anyone else is doing any better. Yeah. Well, there are countries doing better. You know, it's not like we're alone. You know, it's not like we you know, it's not like we're just Thelma or Louise. No, everyone's in this fucking clown car, driving off the cliff, right? You miss me, have you, Najee? Liberate you. Fuck off. We need to storm our own beaches at the moment. Fucking... I know, Lewis. I can't do anything. I can't. Well, Lewis, you know as well as I do, I can't do anything about this. This is just. I don't know why it doesn't work. It's only YouTube. This doesn't work. I'm not. I'm actually sat. Actually sat in the seating area. Outside where I'm staying at the moment. Now, so I'm sorry the audio shit. Sorry the audio shit. Sorry. I'm saying it 5 times because is this a stream with a phone? Yes. It's all I've got on me at the moment. My computer is elsewhere. I'll be picking it up tomorrow, and so you know, because I've not. It's not like I've been not wanting to upload content. Don't, Lewis. Honestly, this is my I'm going to be all over the gaff for the next couple of weeks. I don't know. You know, I am. You know, everything in terms of like where I'm living. It's flying by the seat of my pants at this moment. Um, it will hopefully be resolved soon. But at this moment, it's nothing to worry about. Hey, Tina. You get evicted. Um, whose dog is that? That is the dog that belongs to the people who that is the resident dog at the place I'm staying at the moment. Seeing you is the most important thing. Whatever in your life, or just you know. But that dog, very lovely dog, a cockapoodle called Archie. Almost, you know, no, I would, you know, I'd love a dog, mate, but unfortunately, not at the moment. It's a big responsibility. It's a, you know, thing about owning a dog is you need to have a good long, you know, you need to be set somewhere where you've got many years where you know you're going to be settled, and I very rarely have that. That's why rats are a good pet. You know, a couple of years. You know, the best I could do is I could get a Great Dane. You know, because they only live for about 8 years. You know, but I reckon with the right amount of diet and exercise, I could get it down to 4. You know. Shout out to Anthony Jeselnik for that joke. Oh, when they get older, I'll just let it die. But oh, thank you, Martin. Just make sure you're eating. Thank you, Martin. I mean, that $20. I thank you very much for that. Fortunately, I won't see that for about a month. But as long as I don't starve to death. What's the longest anyone can go without food? David Blaine went 44 days, didn't he? I can, yeah. Although this month is, you know, for the first time in a long time, I will actually have, you know, for one night another job. You know, it will only be for one night. You know, on October 22nd, there's this golf course that's having a sort of like a Halloween, you know, themed interactive, you know, Halloween golf thing, and they basically are looking for people, you know, to play people who can scare the shit out of everybody when they're going around the golf course on each hole. And so I applied because I happen to have, you know, you know, various scary masks and wigs and costumes and an axe and a sledgehammer. And so I applied and I got one. And it's £100 for one night's work. So I have got a gig in Westcliff-on-Sea. I haven't got. I won't be as Emendham, although it depends really. And you could interpret it that, but I will be having a. I do have a wig, which is a long you know, blondie, you know, blonde and brown dreadlock wig, you know. Well, I'm debating at the moment whether I should go with the Beetlejuice um, leggings. Emendham's all right. You know, I will defend Emendham to the death. I don't agree. You know, I won't defend everything he says. You know, but I like him. You know. Because you know, mainly because I can look at him and see my life is on the same train tracks that his is. I can honestly, you know, I can't sit here and say that when I'm his age, if I'm still on here, I won't got to the point where I'm just like, oh, fuck you, fuck it, fuck everyone, fuck you, you know, how dare you agree with me so wholeheartedly blocked, you know. And it's not like to be honest, I think I've kind of needed, even though the lack of content has not been, hasn't been planned. It has been kind of nice to have a break. This is pretty much the longest I've gone without uploading since it's pretty much since I've started. You know, I'm in Manchester. But it doesn't, you know, that's it. I'm in Manchester. It's fine. I'm where I was before. I very much like it here. You know, everyone talks funny. Can't understand a word anyone says. You know, it's all took this and chuck and eop and, you know, bread and dripping and all this other stuff. I couldn't give a shit about any of the things you just asked me about. You know, like, to be fair, Pirates of the Caribbean was shit already. You know, probably one of the few things that can be remade or rebooted. That shouldn't really that you know that nobody should be really too bothered about because it was shit. You know. Johnny Depp at his absolute worst. You know. Doing that shit Keith Richards impression that wasn't funny the first fucking time. Oh, I do have some you know, bad news. And this was Johnny Depp at his best. Johnny Depp's really good. You know, I got, you know, Johnny Depp at his best. Edward Scissorhands, Fear and Loathing. You know, Donnie Briscoe. What was the other one? Blow. He was really good in that. You know. Which grape? Who gives a fuck? Just give him another one. It's only a fucking grape. But you know, but here's the thing. This is what annoys me when people bust on. People always make fun of Nicolas Cage because he's made a lot of shit. And I'm like, so has every actor that's made. You know, so has every actor that's been around as long. In fact, some of them. Bruce Willis hasn't made a decent film in about 20 fucking years. You know, he's been in a load of help. Denzel's been in made a load of shit. Robert De Niro has made crap. You know, Johnny Depp's been in endless piles of shit. You know, thoughts on his? I don't know what you're talking about, mate. Is this some Twitch drama? Because I have no fucking interest. Yeah. Here's the thing about Nick Cage. Nick Cage, even at least with Nick Cage, even when he's in a crap film, he's at least entertaining. You know, he can make a bad film. You know, he can still make a bad film watchable. Right? Say what you will. I know that the remake that he did of fucking Wicker Man was shit. But you know what? It was going to be shit no matter what, because that's not really a film you can remake in a modern day context, right? But if they'd used any other actor other than Nick Cage, no one would have ever talked about. It would have just been a shit remake, and that would have been it. But because of Nick Cage, that film made about 25 fucking memes. You know, you want to see some of the, you know, that scene in Vampire's Kiss where Nicolas Cage recites the alphabet, right? There's an expression in show business to describe someone who is, you know, incredibly charismatic and naturally entertaining, which is they could recite the alphabet and you'd still enjoy watching it. And that's literally what he does in Vampire's Kiss. You know, he just does the alphabet. And if you can make the alphabet a quote, one of your famous quotes, and then no one should be sat there judging. Yeah, I don't think he is a case of he can't act. I just think he's a very, you know, thing about Nick Cage is this: no matter what Nick Cage did for a living, he would always be Nick Cage. If Nick Cage was a bank manager, or if Nick Cage, you know, was a taxi driver, he would still be Nick Cage. Right? And you would remember the one time you met him. He's just very unusual. But he's also, you know, but yes, he's done a lot of shit. So what? He's also done, you know, people forget he's also done a lot of great stuff as well. Leaving Las Vegas, Raising Arizona, you know, fucking, you know, the Rock, Con Air, Face Off. I mean, Face Off is a fucking masterpiece of fucking. It is the absolute peak pinnacle of fucking. You know, it's everything great about stupid, over the top American action films. You know, is in Face Off. It's, and you know, especially next to Travolta. You know, you've got two of the best over actors in the fucking game. The only thing that would have made Face Off, that would have improved Face Off, is if they had got Jim Carrey to play Castor Troy's brother. If Jim Carrey remake Face Off, same as it was, but get fucking, you know, but get Jim Carrey to play Pollux Troy, and you've got maybe the perfect film. And every news story I read about Nick Cage is just, it's just a Nick Cage. There's this every year. There's this tiny little Jim's career. He's not dead. No, It's what it's. You know, listen, people can bust on Jim Carrey. People, you know, but Jim Carrey is fucking. You know, I know. In his later years, he's like, you know, he had his issues, but you know, it's easy to forget how insanely good Jim Carrey is. You know, every year, right? There's this tiny little convention. There's this little gathering called Cage Fest in America, and all it is it's a small it was a tiny little thing, and these people would rent out a tiny this little, and they would get a little theatre, and they would just have a marathon in this theatre of watching Nick Cage films. Right? Nick Cage found out about this and decided to randomly turn up at that year's Cage Fest. Right? And you know what he did? He decided to give the audience a recital of Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven. Is there, you know, he didn't have to. He could have just turned up. But he just, you know, but he's there going, yeah, quoth the Raven. And I just love the way Nick Cage, he'll talk like this and then he'll just scream a word in the middle of nowhere. And if you don't, you know, if you want any, and there's a Saturday Night Live sketch. It's a video. It's on YouTube, which is called In the Cage, where Andy Zaltzman does a Nick Cage impression, and they used to have have another celebrity with him. And one week they got Nick Cage to be Nick Cage next to Andy Zaltzman playing Nick Cage, and Nick Cage doesn't fucking break what all the you know, Seth Meyers and Andy Zaltzman they keep corpsing. Nick Cage is there completely, you know. And I love it when you know you get lots of because you get lots of weirdos and nutters in show business, obviously, but you know, but all you know, and for me, I love it when you get someone who's like, yes, I'm a weirdo, I'm a bit odd, but you know what, fuck you, this is who I am. You can take the piss all you want, I don't care. You know, it's fine. You know. And people forget he won a fucking Academy Award for Best Actor one year for Leaving Las Vegas, which is an amazing film. You know, the other thing I like about Nick Cage is say what you want again. He did. He did. Do you want to hear? Do you want to hear a really fucking amusing statistic? He won an Oscar. Yes, for Leaving Las Vegas. If you haven't seen Leaving Las Vegas, honestly, watch it. It's an amazing film. He plays a like a guy who worked in Hollywood as a script writer, but whose life and career, but he's an alcoholic, and his life and career has fallen apart. His wife's left him. He's lost his job, so he decides he wants to kill himself. But rather than just ending it, he decides to take all of his money, go to Las Vegas, and drink himself to death. And while he's there, he meets this prostitute played by Elizabeth Shue, uh, and he and they fall in love. But you know, it's a beautiful film. You know, say what you want about Nick Cage. One thing I like about him is he's not afraid to do something that he doesn't have to do. He likes challenging himself. You know, you know, you know the fact he likes taking on roles and doing films that he doesn't have to do. You know, some of them, and the only reason he does as much shit as he's done is because he's got a fucking massive tax bill, right? Because he blew all his money on weird shit. And you know what? Good on him. Where he was an assassin. I don't know. I can't remember. What was that film? There was that film he did. It was a little independent film that he didn't have to, that was a tiny little independent film, and he went for, and not only that, he put his money behind it to help him to sort of like, he didn't have to do that, because he just likes being in movies. He likes acting. He enjoys being in movies. I'd kiss Nick Cage. Oh, God. One beer. Oh, stone cold. He'd do it as well. Elizabeth Shue. It's actually Shue with a U, but One of the greatest YouTube videos ever made is called Nick Cage losing his shit, and it's just 5 minutes of him basically screaming and going mental in all of his films, with Requiem for a Dream playing, and it's fucking amazing. That's the sort of role that's just he was made for, you know, and God love him for that. I do have some bad news. This was something that happened just over a week ago, and I was incredible. It was genuinely, this was, that all my stuff was in Market Harbour for ages. Well, about a month ago, I went and picked it all up. The reason I decided to do that, and I did it on my own. I travelled on my own. I had a suitcase, a smaller bag, and I had a holdall that I bought on Amazon that had a 150-litre capacity. And I went all the way to Market Harbour, stuffed as much shit as I could in these 3 bags, and then carried it back to Manchester. I got, and I was literally, I was in so much pain by the time I got back. I was broken. I was weeping at the end of Manchester Piccadilly train station, because my train stopped and I was at the end of the platform. I could get anyone to help me. I just, I was broken. One of the things that I didn't pick up was my hoverboard, my big, my pride and joy, which was my massive hoverboard slash, which is also my slash go-kart. And I get a week ago, I was going to go head back down there to get all the rest of my stuff, and I get a message from the people who were looking after my stuff that it had been stolen. I don't want to some people will be speculating about it, and I don't want to talk about any. Bottom line is, I've lost my hoverboard, and as daft as this might sound to many, to people here or other people, I was genuinely broken up about that. I felt like, when you get, it's like when I felt like when I was 10 years old and you get a bike for your birthday and you take it out, and these bullies punch you in the face and then fucking take it off you, and you lose, apart from the fact that it cost a lot of money. It was and it had a lot of sentimental value as well, because the reason I was able to buy it, that thing cost me £550, and the reason I was able to buy it is because I had sold, I'd sold enough commissions of my artwork that I had this money, and I thought, I'm gonna treat myself, so I bought that fucking thing. And also, ever since my peripheral neuropathy robbed me of the ability to feel have any feeling in my feet and hands. You know, that go-kart was the only thing that I could get on where I could go fast and have fun at a, you know, and travel at that sort of speed and be safe, you know. And it's gone, and I will probably, you know, at least not for the, you know, foreseeable future, be able to fucking, you know, afford to buy it. Because when I bought it, it was 550 quid, and the company I got it from was this little German company. I was the first person outside of Germany to own one of their hoverboards. This thing did 35 miles an hour. It was road legal, right? It had indicators and brake lights. It had a fucking Bluetooth speaker on the back of it, right? How anyone could nick it, I don't know, because it weighed more than Jupiter, this thing. But and whoever did nick it probably isn't enjoying it too much, because not only was the battery flat when I gave it to them, but I've got the fucking cables to charge it. No, it wasn't out of storage space. It was staying with some friends some people who lived in the same building as me. Who didn't have to leave, you know, who were in a different part of the building, who I had lived in, who were basically my neighbours all the time I was there. So, you know, and anyway, um, and yeah, but yeah, the bottom line is it's gone. But that hoverboard, if I went on Amazon, you know, a while back, because the company that sells those has expanded since then. That hoverboard is 900 fucking quid now. It's the only thing I've ever bought that has actually increased in value. So even if I got the money back, even if I managed to get the money back that I spent on it originally, I still wouldn't be able to buy one of the fuckers. You know, and that hurt. You know, so yeah, there was that. You know, but yeah, the reason I decided to get all my stuff by myself, as ridiculous as it was, for me to fucking try and haul literally 80% of everything I own from Market Harborough, from Leicester all the way up to fucking Manchester, you know, is because in order if I wanted to get like if I wanted to hire like a van or a, do you know how much it was going to cost? 465 quid. Or I could spend 70 quid on a train ticket and do it myself. So yeah, that was one of the bad things. Yeah. Um, some good stuff. The other day, I went to there's a shop near me called Bop DJ, which sells all of the, you know, which just sells DJ turntables and stuff. It's like fucking. I had an erection. I was in there for like 10 seconds, and it was like, no, and they were doing these one-on-one sessions with this geezer who was like an award-winning fucking DJ geezer. And in 30 minutes, this motherfucker taught me more about how to use my DJ turntables than 100 hours of fucking YouTube tutorials. You know, you know, some, you know, but as far as actual other videos go, I do have, you know, I've got like four or five that are basically all done. It's just a case of, actually I've got probably more than that in terms of the bones. I've probably got more than that, but you know, but it's just been a case of just being, you know, having the, you know, being settled and having the time and to do stuff. What happened to that murder? Literally just told you, Najee. Like I said, I haven't uploaded anything for over 6 weeks because just you know it's been that life has unfortunately been that sort of hectic and all over the place that no, it's not one of the ones in the work. To be honest, mate, I'm struggling to think of something to do with it. I mean, other than just watching it and doing a direct reaction. I don't know what, but even then, I don't know if that's a good idea because what we've, the way YouTube is now, it's the kind of thing that can get. I mean, if the original is not allowed on YouTube, then me reacting to the original is probably not going to be is not likely to last long. You know. Oh, it was a small miracle. Like literally, like about a week ago, I get a message from YouTube saying I've got a strike on my channel, and one of my videos had been removed for hate speech, and the video that had been removed was a hate mail video, and I'm like, how can me reading my own hate mail be hate speech? It's my hate mail, right? You can't sit there and flag my own fucking hate mail video. And I appealed it, and YouTube actually fucking, agreed with the appeal. They literally said, yes, we've determined this is not hate speech, and your video has been reinstated. I'm like, what the? I'm like, we really are living in fucking bizarro world. Manchester, people screaming and shouting. This is a constant thing. No, I didn't beat the algorithm at all. The algorithm still flagged it. You know. To be fair, it's not the first time they have done this. They've done it. It's just it happens so infrequently that appealing a YouTube flagging is like it's like phoning the police. You do it, but they ain't gonna fucking do anything. Nothing. They ain't gonna do anything about it. I appreciate that. I appreciate that, Whiskers. Yeah, well. There's no arsehole down the road. I mean, literally, since I've lived here, I've had to get used to the background soundtrack of police sirens, or or fire engine sirens, or ambulance sirens, just constantly going past. If I watch a YouTube video that's longer than 20 minutes, at some point I'm going to have to pause it because I won't be able to hear it because there'll be sirens going past. Yeah. But it's also, one of the nice things. The only bad thing, the only negative thing about living in since I moved here is there really isn't much in the way of opportunity or places for me to go longboarding. Skateboarding, shitloads. There's literally 3 different skateboard shops within half a mile of where I was of the flat I was in. It was, but nothing. But longboarding, was has been it's been it's been difficult. I've even gone. I even went in the skateboard shops and asked, and they're like, "Nah, mate, Harbour where I can go out at midnight, and I'm literally the only person in the town who's outside. Everyone's asleep, and I've got free reign. It doesn't really matter what time I go out. It's a big city centre. It's gonna be sort of busy-ish to an extent. worker in a shitty firm. I made it as a writer, and I feel like a cheat. And until I feel like a well, I can't help you with that, mate. I mean, that's made it as. I mean, you just said you made it as a writer. Do you know how many people make that? Do you know how many people would love to be in your shoes right now? Do you know how many people who write who would love to, who would switch places with you right now? You know, it's one of those endeavors where the odds on you succeeding are virtually nil. You know, if success you have to any to it is something you should embrace and feel proud of. You know, and it was that was a moment, that was something, that was something I had with doing stand up, is that I wasn't interested in. It wasn't a case of I need to be on TV, I need to be have a DVD, I need to have a Netflix special, I need to have a nationwide. No, I don't need any of that. Do you know what I needed? I just needed to prove that I could do it, and do it to a level to do it at a level of quality that I felt was good enough, and I did. And the second the second I sat there and realised, I was like, I've done it. You know, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do that since I was a kid, and I've done it. How many people can fucking say that? How many people can sit there and say, this is what I wanted to do since I was a kid, and when they're an adult, sit there and go, and I did it? Most people won't even try. And you know what? Even if you have cheated or maybe done things, you've maybe had a bit of hustle in what you've done. Do you know what? So fucking what? That's the game. I'm not. That's the way it has to be sometimes. Sometimes you've got to, to succeed. You've got to fucking, people lie on job applications and on CVs for fucking, for regular jobs all the fucking time. So why should you expect it? Why should it be any? Why should you be expected to not, do that? Have that same approach. If you've got to lie about shit, if you've got to undercut someone, fucking do. No one's because it's a because as supportive as other people might be. Do you know what? At the same time, that they won't. They're in it for themselves, and so are you. For me, even if you fail at something, even if you just don't succeed, do you know what? Even if you just try, even if you just try to do it, do you know what? I still think you can say you've won, because that's something. Even that is something that most people are too scared to do, because the fact is, people don't want, people are scared when it's something people love and they care about. They're scared to try, because if you fail at that's going to hurt. So most people just won't do it. They'd rather just not try and just have the fantasy and have the possibly maybe. And you've also got to understand this. One thing I've learned about the entertainment industry is, obviously whatever you do, you've got to be good. You've got to put the work in. But do you know what? You've got to be good, and you've got to be good, and you've got to put the work in. But do you know what else you need? You need a lot of luck. It's mostly down to luck. is how successful you're going to be. That's why one of my favourite sort of stories, um, in regards to like, you know, people is Oasis, right? You know, if you know, if you're, I don't know if you know this, right? This is. Do you know how Oasis got signed to their record label? They were booked. They literally they hadn't been to get they hadn't been formed that long, and they got booked at a gig in London, and they travelled all the way down from Manchester in a van, all their gear, and they had a load of mates with them to chip in for petrol. They arrive at the venue, and the venue says, "Sorry lads, you're not booked tonight. We've got three bands on. Three bands have turned up. You're not on." And Noel Gallagher says to the guy, "Well, look, mate, there's 12 of us, and if you don't let us on that stage to play, we are going to come in, we are going to kick off and smash the shit up out of your club." So they took the diplomatic approach, went, "Okay, you can go on first, and we'll give you three songs." So they get on the gig. Now at that same time that they're going on stage, Alan McGee, who owned Creation Records, the record label, he was in London, and he was supposed to get a train back to Edinburgh. His train had been cancelled, and the next train wasn't for an hour and a half, so he just decided to leave the train station and went to the nearest venue he could, right, which happened to be this band. He saw Oasis and he signed them to a 3 album deal, even though they only had about 5 songs at that time. Next thing you know, biggest band in the world. That is show business, you know. Yeah. To be honest, mate, lots of people have, you know, it's lots of people. And to be honest, you know, a lot of people, even as lockdown was ending, a lot of people still haven't done, you know. There's nothing wrong with Wonder. Wonderwall is the only song that was in the top 10 that had two different versions at the top. There was a cover version of Wonderwall that was released by a guy called Mike Flowers Pop, who did like these cabaret nightclub cover versions of popular songs, and he released his cover version of Wonderwall, and it was actually in the charts at the same time. It was in the top 5 at the same time as Wonderwall. I think it actually got higher in the chart. I think it was actually I think Wonderwall only ever got to like number 3 or something like that, but this got to like number 2, or it might have even got to number 1. I can't remember. You know, whatever you, but you know, whatever you think of, you know, Oasis is irrelevant. The point is, you know, the fact of the matter is that is that's the difference. You know, if they hadn't got on the stage that night, we probably never would have heard of them. If Alan McGee's train had been on time, if Alan McGee had gone to a different club, if Oasis had been put on later in the night, probably never would have heard of them. You know. I used to annoy my flatmate by constantly singing Wonderwall, and he just turned around to me one day and said, "Richard, would you stop singing that song?" And I said, "Maybe." Thank you very much. I'm here all week. See, that's why I'm a pro. Hello, Dragon. You're the reason I'm currently serving my third 30-day suspension from YouTube, from Facebook at the moment. I've had 3 30-day suspensions in a row, each one separated by about 2 fucking days. Do I still have a Patreon? Yes, I do. And fuck me, if you want to go now, because Christ Almighty, this is fucking, you know, do I fucking, you know. I'm not going to complain because, you know, I'm very lucky to, I'm very lucky that to have the. Hi, Yvette. Yeah, I am. I do live. I've always had this sort of plan that I should make like I wanted to be like the two-pack of YouTube. In that, I wanted to have like a sort of hard drive with like 100 videos on it, and then give it to someone so that when I die, I can continue uploading stuff after I'm dead. Well, I mean, making your own luck is, again, it's just making your own luck is simply making sure that you are in a position where luck can happen. Obviously, like I said, you've got to work hard. You've got to put in the time, the graft, and you've got to be good. Of course, you've got to be good, but without that bit of like, I could fucking sit here for hours and tell you and list off just dozens of points in my life in the last 20 years since I did my first ever gig. 20 years this November since my first ever stand-up gig, and I've lost count. I've forgotten more times I have just been in the wrong, either in the wrong place at the wrong time, or I was or just I had the bad gig at the wrong. It's just you know. But if you can make with triumphs and I'm not a fucking god, mate. The reincarnation of Winston Churchill, not really, no. Are you suggesting that in 50 years' time, the BMP will be using the? I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind having the being constantly attributed loads of great quotes that I never said. To Churchill, officially the most misquoted. The odds are, if you ever see anyone posting anything online that quotes Winston Churchill, there's a 99.9% chance that quote is complete. Churchill never said it. But I mean, but here's the thing, mate. It all depends on what you want out of the endeavors that you have. If for you being successful means being famous, then the odds are you're never going to be happy. And you're going. Whereas if you just want if you're able to sit here and go, I care about this. This is I want to do this, and simply being able to do it, and know that I'm good at, and know that it's something I'm good at. And know that and have the and you've got you've got enough reviews, and you've got enough quotes from your respected peers, and you can go to any gig at any point and go and know that and know that you can do well, and that's a if that's you know shit. Drop my phone. That's the peripheral neuropathy. No, think about it. No, I'm not Churchill. I'm not Churchill. Comparing me to Churchill, that's Archie. Hey, Archie. Hello. No, I'm fine. Am I okay? Of course I'm okay. I just dropped my phone off. You should see my screen. Yeah, almost. To be fair, Martin, that's true of a lot of people. Yeah, I know that. I know the audio's low. There's nothing I can do about that, mate. You're going to have to just listen. There we go. Hello, mate. Do you want to be? Hello. Saying that, I ate a burrito earlier, and I think he can smell that, on on my beard. But hey, if that's, you know, yeah. Do you know there is a geezer? There is the there's a guy, I forget his name, but he is the leading. He is the, you know, world's leading Winston Churchill historian, and he wrote and released two books that were just full of quotes that Churchill never said. Right now, to me, that's when you know you're proper iconic, isn't it? When people have to, when people were releasing multiple books of stuff you didn't say, you know, but everybody thinks you did. Close to Churchill. Gandhi's another one. Um, I see Orwell quoted. I just see people referencing 1984, and you know that they've never. No, not Marilyn Monroe. No, I mean, I'm not saying she doesn't get misquoted, but you know, she's not. I don't see a lot of Marilyn Monroe quotes, but I mean, you know, a lot of people. I'm sure she is, but I mean, you know, but not to the level, not to Churchill or Stan. I mean, generally, people like, yeah, Martin Luther King. Well, Martin Luther King, it's not a case that he's misquoted. It's just that there's only like four things he said that white people liked, and and the stuff that he said that white people don't want to know. Yeah, is John Lennon misquoted? I don't know. I think John Lennon. I mean, I personally, as a human being, I hate John Lennon, and you know, I can't. You know, he's a piece of shit, and in this age where everybody, you know, in this age of, like, you know, calling out the idolatry of people who are just ultimately pieces of shit, it's kind of amazing. Yeah. We can say that that's one thing Mark Chapman did. Mark Chapman did the ultimate cancellation of John Lennon. You know, great at being Dave Rubin. You know, he's like, he's abused one of his children, not physically, but he psychologically abused him. He was also just a generally just a sort of a massive hypocrite. This is I, you know, this is why I hate, personally, I hate the, you know, Imagine, not as a song on its own. I just hate the hypocrisy that, you know, of people who will sit there and talk about what a great song Imagine is and what a great message and, you know, the overall point of the song. And I'm like, if a political party ran with a manifesto that was that contained policies that were identical to the lyrics of Imagine, they wouldn't get vote. You wouldn't vote for them in a million bloody years. You know, I'm not saying you wouldn't, but they would lose. Right? No one would vote for, you know. One of is a comedian called Jay. You know, you're probably familiar with because he's got quite a big YouTube channel. There's a Jay Foreman. And one of the first time I ever saw Jay Foreman, he performed this song that I remember pissing myself. It was called "I'm Glad John Lennon Died." It's such a, it's an amazing it's an amazing piece of just vicious trolling. Activism, that's true, but I think there was a message in his Vietnam War protest. It was saying, look, you know, Vietnam might be bad, but look, I'm in bed with Yoko Ono. You know, life can be worse, fellas. You know, I don't think it's, you know, I've got nothing against the Beatles per se. I just think a lot of their stuff is just I think a lot of their stuff is overrated, and I think I think that people bang on about how great it is, but you look at a lot of particularly their earlier stuff, it's fucking awful. It's the sort of thing. I mean, if your 5-year-old niece or nephew wrote some of the lyrics, that you wouldn't even pretend to be impressed. You know, yeah, way more. Because I think Chris Rock said it best. He said there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with wanting to hit a woman. You just don't do it. Like there's nothing wrong with wanting to push an 80-year-old man in a wheelchair down a flight of stairs, but you don't. You know, you know. To do it, but I mean, you can't bust on them for that. That's true of a lot of music from back then. Because no one had done anything. The 1950s was the first sort of, the 1950s was the first era of, where music as we know it now, like pop music and band, started. Nothing before that. No one ever talks about music from the 40s or 50s or 30s, do they? Or pre 1950s. And as someone who worked in a 1950s diner, I can tell you firsthand, most of the music back then was utter shite. You know, it just complete and total pelt. There was some decent stuff, you know, but for the most part, it was fucking crap. And this was back in the 50s. I mean, back in the 50s, you had what, probably 100 songs released a year. Now that's you get more song. There are more new songs released now every week. You know, just imagine how bad you're going to feel because Paul McCartney's going to die next, and that means that at his funeral we have to have Ringo Starr paying tribute to him by playing Thomas the fucking Tank Engine, right? At least John Lennon and Harrison, at least when Lennon died, Harrison and McCartney were there, so they could still same crap to banger ratio. Yeah, you're absolutely right. But I just, for me, it's like, in terms of, when a lot of it, like I said, like you said, it was great because a lot of it was just no one had done anything like this before. Everyone was starting off new, and you know, but I mean, look at some of the Beatles' early stuff, like look at "Love Me Do." I mean, how fucking don't even pretend that if love me do, I love you. I'll always be true. So love me do. This is the greatest fucking. This is the greatest songwriting of all time, is it? You know, goes all right. The worst thing Mark Chapman did was the fact that he shot John Lennon, and because he had a copy of Catcher in the Rye in his pocket, he he made that he convinced people that that book was good. You know, and I'm like, it isn't. Do I watch? Yes, I do watch him. We talked about him, mentioned him earlier. I will defend. I will stand for Gary for many. Oh, and he probably doesn't, but I don't care. Um, it's not even the fact it's not even the fact it's white boy problems. It's not even that. It's just shite. There's plenty of you know you know you can have you can have stuff you can have first world problem based films and stories that are that are still that are still entertaining and good, you know, but it's just boring, you know. If I ever fucking if I ever assassinate someone, I'm just going to have a copy of a Delia Smith's Christmas cookbook in. You know, is the problem. If I have to, if someone, if in order for a book to be good, someone tells me I have to look at it from a specific standpoint, and I shouldn't have to do that. You know, it's like when religious people try and explain, parts of the Bible as to. I'm like, well, if you have to, this is the word of God. If you have to explain this to me, I have to understand a context where it shouldn't have to be the case. You know. In the club will always be a banger. You know. It's like when people. It's like I make fun of like prog rock and shit like that. And Pink Floyd and stuff because it annoys people mainly because how dare anybody not like Pink Floyd, but it's like it's the kind that's the kind of music where people will say, oh no, if you got, I'm like, no, like if you don't like it, you don't like it, it's fine. Don't try and make me like this. Like nobody does that. People do that with comedy and music these days. Nobody does it with. Imagine getting like it's like when people it's like I get it if people don't like a certain type of a certain musician or comedian or whatever. But to me, cheers, Tommy. Um, but to me, it's like can't you just not like it? Why does it have to not exist? Imagine somebody going to an art gallery and putting their jacket over paintings that they didn't like because they didn't want it's like no one would do that. You wouldn't go to the Louvre and fucking hold a duvet up and go, no, you can't look at this. Thing is with context. I mean, I think this is one of the things that is, you know, if we're talking about areas where I get annoyed at the younger generation, and I'm going to sound like a miserable old fart now, but I don't care. For me, it's like one of them is where they is judging something from 30 years ago by modern day in a modern context. I'm like, no, you can't do that. You've got to look at it you've got to look at something from the context it was in, because obviously we can look at comedians and films and stuff and music from 30 years ago and say, yes, if that was released today and it was as something new, it would be completely inappropriate, and it wouldn't work. But the fact is, it's not being released today. It was released 30 years ago, and 30 years ago, this was different. Music. I mean, what is pop music? I mean, that's just. I mean, pop music. It's just a way of describing. It's popular music. Yes, it's very. It's easily. That's why it's popular. It's going to be popular because it's easiest to listen to, and mostly that kind of music. It's for kids mainly. It's for younger people, and I say that as a guy who is a very, who is a big fan of Taylor Swift and Billie Eilish and Little Mix, and I've got fucking and I've got Justin Bieber's album, and I don't give a shit, and and I like Miley Cyrus, and I'm not going to apologise for that, but because some things. you know, easy to like or it's popular doesn't mean it's good. You know. You're going to see bit you lucky. You know. See, the problem is I'm of an age where I'd like to go and see a lot of these people, but I'm not. I haven't got any mates who are to go and see it with. You know. People like or dislike, that's it's the old saying, I don't know art, but I know what I hate, or I know what I like. I don't care. It's the people who avidly hate certain things that get on, that I don't understand. It's like, why would you, why would you passionately hate someone who just because they, produce music you don't like? I'm just going back indoors now because my battery's going to die soon, and I don't want that to happen when the stream's still going. Here we go. Right. By the way, I'm disappointed none of you have commented on the awesome jacket I'm wearing, which is just. I needed something that sort of said to the world, hey, the midlife crisis is in full. The midlife crisis train has left the station. Jump on board. Did I make it? I didn't even fucking make it. Do you know one of the few things I've seen live that even if you go with someone who isn't a fan, everybody likes it. Wrestling. Everybody, everyone. I've been to so many wrestling events, and either with someone either with my dad, when I was younger, who wasn't a fan of wrestling, but even when you're with someone, and even with someone who isn't a fan, they always enjoy. The great thing about wrestling is even if it's a crap show, it's still fun. Undertaker's gone. It doesn't make me sad, mate. He's fucking. He's old and he went on for too long as it was. Bless him. I defy anyone. Go and watch. There's a video on YouTube, and it's a Scottish wrestling promotion called Insane Championship Wrestling, and it's Grado doing his entrance to his entrance theme is Like a Prayer by Madonna, and I defy anyone to watch that and say to me, I want to be there, and say to me, I don't want to go. That doesn't look like it looks amazing, and you're like, that I would love to be in that crowd. I'm friends with one of the guys, Billy Kirkwood, who did commentary for ICW, is a friend of mine. Because he's a comedian, obviously, and I did a couple of years ago in Edinburgh. He and a friend of his used to did a wrestling themed stand-up show called We Are the Tag Team Champions, and the second half was like improvised comedy games, based on wrestling, and I took part in that with Chris Renfrew and Colt Cabana. It was a lot of fun, I've never done it. That's one thing I've never done. I probably won't ever get a chance to do it. One of the games we had, one of the improvisation games was we had to improvise promos, and they would give us gimmicks and things we had to do. or things where and I did, and I had to do a. I was supposed to do the face promo, but I completely turned heel during it because I had to do a promo with a Jamaican accent as a one-legged wrestler, and at some point throw in a freestyle rap, and to promote a match I was having, an upcoming match in which the winner gets a caravan, and oi oi handsome. Oh me, thank you. Well, thank you. No, I took a picture of me wearing this shirt, and a mate of mine said, "Are you wearing a hospital gown?" And I was like, "Fucking hell." Only thing I own with a collar and buttons. Wrestling's one of the, I would never, I would, I wouldn't even try to. It's one of those things I would, I'd be happy to take part in, like training for, but I would never. One of the things before the bloody, or before the pandemic and all of the lockdowns, I had started, there was a local gym in Market Harborough that I was, and I had literally, had a couple of sessions. I'd started training, for MMA fighting. It's like it was two training sessions a week to learn like jiu-jitsu and kickboxing. And then the pandemic and then COVID kicked in, and obviously the gym was shut for 18 fucking months. I'll get back on that. That will be amusing. Yeah. The thing is, I don't want to exercise. You know why? Because if I have to, we could all exercise at home, but the reason most of us don't is because we won't. If you go to a gym, I mean, isn't there a statistic something like 40% of people who have got gym memberships that like don't use them? Well, I thought, one of my thinking was, I could, if I was to have like an MMA fight, what I need is to be like, if I'm up against some geezer whose like speciality is like an ankle lock. Lost the audio. Yeah. Well, the audio is not very good. It's cutting it off. But if I was against some geezer in an MMA fight, and his speciality was like a move on my ankle, he's fucked, because I won't feel a bloody thing. I'll just sit there for a week, mate, or like you can rip my bloody ankles off, I won't, but, I will feel it down too, Granted, it's a limited fucking, I can't do anything about the audio. I'm sorry. Yeah. If anyone comes in and complains, can somebody else explain it? Well, no, Troy, the mic works on everything except YouTube live stream. It works on the video. I'll tell you what, I'll probably end the live stream soon if it doesn't improve. And I'm trying to get close to the mic, but I'm on a shelf.
back video. What back video? What was that? I need a back video. What's back? It was nice to see I'm not dead. Brilliant. I'm glad that's the stand. I'm glad that's all I've got to do to impress people. You know, it's not a high bar, but you see, Kate's got the right attitude. You know, just improvise. You know. Right wrist is that's good. Wrist is least of all the rest is on November 4th. It's my first gig since it's the first gig the last gig I would have been pre-pandemic. So and it's technically my 20th anniversary gig. I'll tell you what, I'm gonna try and restart the screen. I'm gonna start a new screen. So keep pressing and I'll hopefully be back. Give me 2 minutes.